Good evening, this is Viewpoint. I'm Zaka Jacob. So finally, 48 hours after his surprise resignation, there finally seems to be some resolution, even if it's a temporary one, but some resolution to the saga involving Navjot Singh Sidhu. Right now, even as we speak, the PCC chief and the chief minister, that's Charanjit Singh Channi, both of them are closeted in a meeting. We're given to understand that that meeting has just concluded. All of Mr. Sidhu's demands have reportedly been accepted. So that means the Advocate General, Mr. Deol, the DGP, Mr. Daota, could both be likely replaced. Now, Mr. Sidhu, in addition to these two names, had also wanted Mr. Gurjeet Rana, one of the ministers, to be replaced as well. So 2 out of 3 demands are reportedly being met. So much so, we're now expecting a joint press conference by both Mr. Channi and Mr. Sidhu in the next few minutes. The question then is this, and it's a very simple one. If all it took was 48 hours, we're giving you these latest pictures, Charanjit Channi, the chief minister, leaving Punjab Bhavan after this meeting with Navjot Sidhu. We're not sure of the status of this joint press conference. We were given to understand that it will happen moments after the meeting. The meeting has concluded. It went on for a good almost 3 hours. Let's try and see if we can get a reporter from outside the Punjab Bhavan in Chandigarh, where Mr. Sidhu drove up to the Punjab Bhavan, and he had this almost 3-hour-long meeting with Chief Minister Charanjit Singh Channi. Like I said, we're given to understand that 2 out of his 3 demands have been accepted. In fact, one of the supporter MLAs of Mr. Sidhu came out and said, Mr. Sidhu is not going anywhere. He will continue to be the PCC chief in Punjab. But the question that's being asked of the Congress party, if all it took was 48 hours to reach out to Mr. Sidhu, accept some of his demands, then could the party not have avoided this embarrassment by simply keeping Mr. Sidhu in the loop? Is the worst of this crisis over? How can Mr. Channi and Mr. Sidhu ever trust each other ever again after so much bad blood has flown between them just in the last few days? All of that and more coming up, but first the story.
Less than 24 hours after his meeting with Amit Shah and NSA Ajit Doval, Captain Amrinder Singh dropped a bombshell on the Congress. I will resign from the Congress, he said. I will not take this humiliation and insult. So, is something cooking with the BJP? The captain, a chef par excellence, kept it clear. I'm not joining the BJP, he said. But never say never in politics, which is why the Congress deployed Kamal Nath to calm the captain down. It didn't work. The captain struck where it hurts. He said he had no intentions of continuing in the Congress, which was going downhill. This heavy firing at a party that he has served for over 40 years is unlikely to be his political swan song. It is unlikely that he will make the Congress's life easy by retiring. Meanwhile, his nemesis, Navjot Singh Sidhu, came out of his Kop Bhavan in Patiala and drove all the way to Chandigarh for a truce meeting with Chief Minister Charanjit Channi. After 3 hours of the meeting, there was buzz that Sidhu had relented after his demands to sack tainted appointees was accepted. But what was also perhaps playing on his mind was his biggest backers, the Gandhis, losing patience with his loose cannon behavior. Drop the tantrum or we drop you was their message. So is all well that ends well? With elections in Punjab in 5 months and Mr. Sidhu's ambitions of being the next chief minister, the Punjab thriller is nowhere near its climax. In New Delhi, I'm Shreya Dhondial.
All right, so we have both Mr. Channi and Mr. Sidhu leaving from the Punjab Bhavan. Those are the latest shots that we're getting from there, from Chandigarh, after this almost 3-hour-long meeting between both gentlemen, the Chief Minister and the PCC Chief. Arun Dhanta is joining us live from outside the Punjab Bhavan. The Chief Minister reportedly showing a thumbs-up sign. Mr. Sidhu also seems to be in a smiling mood. What's gone on inside that meeting? Do we have any information, Arun, on what has been agreed upon? What are the compromises that have been arrived upon between both men so that Mr. Sidhu is placated?
Well, Zaka, at this moment, Charanjit Singh Channi, Chief Minister of Punjab, when he came out, he showed us thumbs up that everything has been done, things have been settled. Now, what is the arrangement that they have made is something which officially has not been announced, but the source-based information that we are picking is that the few demands of Navjot Singh Sidhu, which includes the replacement of...
नागरा जी कुलजीत नागरा जी आ रहे हैं वो अभी बता रहे हैं आपको और बाकी सारा सॉल्व हो चुका है
मतलब कांग्रेस यूनाइटेड है
कांग्रेस एक है
सिद्धू साहब ने अपना रेजिग्नेशन वापस ले लिया
कांग्रेस एक है सिद्धू साहब बिल्कुल साथ है रेजिग्नेशन बिल्कुल वापस होगा बिल्कुल दोनों मिल चुके हैं सारा कुछ ठीक है जो माड़े मोटे घर में थोड़े गिले शिकवे थे
फार्मूला क्या लगाया क्या एजी और बीजेपी को ट्रांसफर कर रहे हैं बदल रहे हैं क्या कैबिनेट
वही मैं कह रहा हूँ अभी आपको दो 3 मिनट भी दे देते हैं अभी आपको 2-4 मिनट में पता चल जाएगा बिल्कुल सॉल्व हो चुका है और बिल्कुल सिद्धू साहब भी मान चुके हैं क्योंकि घर में कोई हमारे एक दूसरे से कोई हो नहीं किला शिकवा था माड़ा मोटा वो बिल्कुल क्लियर हो चुका है और अभी आप क्लियर हो चुका है
All right, that's one of the MLAs who was also there in the meeting between Mr. Channi and Mr. Sidhu. He's come out and said all issues are resolved. There are no more issues between Mr. Channi and Mr. Sidhu. All his demands have been met. Mr. Sidhu is very much going to be the PCC chief. What the contours of that compromise are, we don't know. So, Arun, are we getting any word? We're given to understand that Kuljit Nagra, somebody who's very close and also one of the ministers, he will be coming out and addressing the press and giving the press details of what has been agreed upon between both men. Do we have any more details, Arun?
Well, that's right, Zaka. As we speak, Charanjit Singh Channi has already left, but Navjot Singh Sidhu, Pargat Singh, and the working president, which includes Kuljit Nagra and Pawan Goyal, they are still inside the Punjab Bhavan. In fact, a few seconds ago, we could see that they were there on the gate, on the entry gate of Punjab Bhavan. The formula of the return of Navjot Singh Sidhu is something which we do not know at this moment. But when Charanjit Singh Channi's cavalcade came out from Punjab Bhavan, he showed us thumbs up as if everything has been sorted, and that's the sense which we are picking up at this moment. I would request my camera person to just show towards that side if we could catch a glimpse of Navjot Singh Sidhu there on the gate. So which means the leaders who are with Navjot Singh Sidhu, whom he was backing, and they are still inside Punjab Bhavan. And yes, you rightly mentioned that we are also picking up that Kuljit Nagra, who is one of the working presidents of the Congress party, will address the media about the arrangement, what has been made. But yes, the source-based information that we are picking is that the initial demands, which was of course about replacement of DGP and the Advocate General, that has been agreed upon. That's something which we are picking up.
All right, Arun, we'll come back to you as and when that PC happens. There was supposed to be a joint press conference. That's not happening. Kuljit Nagra, one of the working presidents of the Punjab Congress, is expected to come out and give us details of the broad contours of what has been agreed to between Mr. Channi and Mr. Sidhu. Sanjay Jha, political analyst, joining us. Rashid Gidwai, author and journalist. China NC, spokesperson of the BJP, and Hemant Atri, senior journalist, also joining us. Sanjay Jha, if all it took was this 48 hours and for the Chief Minister to relent on the at least 2 out of the 3 demands, which is change the DGP and change the Advocate General, surely this embarrassment over the last 48 hours could have well been avoided just by keeping Mr. Sidhu in the loop.
See, Zaka, I think all of us here are seasoned political campaigners. I will tell you this, that when Captain Amrinder Singh resigned, I think that stumped, Navjot Singh Sidhu completely. I mean, for one, he was determined that he's not going to have him back as the chief minister. So Sidhu obviously did not become the natural alternative. And that's exactly what Sidhu is aiming for. Sidhu is interested in becoming the chief minister of Punjab. I mean, the post of the president of the party is basically a stepping stone to that big job. And therefore, when Mr. Channi became the chief minister, which again, I think Navjot only agreed to it reluctantly, I think he completely got himself in a corner because of the Dalit factor, the narrative that the Congress has actually sold very aggressively. And in my opinion, for a change, showing some political acumen. But the truth is that at the end of the day, Navjot saw himself completely boxed out. He would have the responsibility for leading the campaign, destabilizing his own government, and then there was no guarantee that he would be chief minister.
One second, Sanjay. Here's the problem. The reasons ostensibly that he has kept in the public domain as to why he's taken this drastic step, and I keep saying, you don't press the nuclear button on the first option. That's what he did. He went in and sent in his resignation, right? The three reasons that he kept were Rana Gurjeet, according to him, tainted minister needs to be removed. We don't know. We don't have clarity on that. The DGP, Mr. Dahota, he feels should be removed because he, according to Mr. Sidhu, had given a false report, sort of exonerating the Badals in the Bargadi case. And then, of course, third was the Advocate General, Mr. Diol, who he says was representing two of the people who were accused in that case. How can he be now the Advocate General of the state? Now, if all it took was meeting some of these demands, then surely the chief minister or whoever it is who decided on who the AG should be and who the DGP should be should have just made a phone call to Mr. Sidhu.
Well, Zaka, actually what you're saying should have happened. But remember, this is a tricky politics at play. I'm actually equally astonished as to how did Mr. Channi put up these three people in their jobs, because actually Navjot is not totally wrong here. All these three characters that we are talking about, these bureaucrats, all of them have got a taint on the sacrilegious case. So I think in a great number of ways, Sidhu has played good politics too, saying, listen, I'm going to draw the line in the sand because I'm fighting a crusade against the Badal government. And if the Congress party were not going to listen to me, I rebel.
Let's be very clear. We don't know what the outcome of this quote-unquote crusade is, whether that will lead to any kind of, material development. But China NC, Sanjay Jha's view is this might actually work out to be okay for the Congress, because at the end of the day, and he's right, there is still a lot of anger as far as the sacrilege cases are concerned. And Mr. Sidhu, by publicly taking this position, publicly making his anger known against two people who he feels were closely involved in that case, he now gets the moral high ground.
So, Zaka, the question is, who's sacrilege? Now, first you have Mr. Amrinder Singh, who has been humiliated repeatedly since September 17th. Then you have Mr. Navjot Singh Sidhu's camp that gives an ultimatum to the High Command on Thursday and says that they cannot go ahead with this DGP, Iqbal Preet Singh, and they cannot go ahead with the AG appointment. Now, the Punjab CM, Mr. Channi, who has said that these will not be revoked. And then you have this comedy of errors and this pack of cards that is just flocking to the High Command and trying to get each one to be proved to be the leader of this party that has actually sunk. Now, the point is that since 17th September, the people of Punjab, what have you done for them? It's only personal ambition. Where is the nation? Where is the party? Where is the state? It's only individual.
No, but don't you believe, China? China, don't you believe that by taking this public position, saying that something needs to be done against the Badals, the Congress, through Navjot Singh Sidhu, is also sending out a signal that this is an important issue for us? Perhaps one of the reasons why Amrinder Singh was eased out or thrown out, whatever you can characterize it, was because he was refusing to act against the Badals.
Please highlight what Mr. Manish Tiwari said. He hit out at Navjot Singh Sidhu saying Pakistan will be happy with what's going on in Punjab. Yeah. This is not me commenting. This is a Congress leader commenting.
Yes.
Look at the kind of commentary you've had between Mr. Surjewala, Mr. Rawat, the confusion, the disarray. The future of Punjab is not at the hands of a handful. There are people who have been working tirelessly on ground from a lot of political parties because there are core issues, be it the drug mafia, be it unemployment, be it the farmer crisis. And I'd like to say, in the scheme of things, you haven't even given the respect to Captain Amrinder, who has got respect from every political
I'll
party.
talk about that. I'll talk about that in 1 second. So you essentially have gone in the Punjab Congress. You have gone in the Punjab Congress from Punjab the Panga to Sab Changasi over the last 48 hours. I mean, that's essentially what has happened. I mean, it's like a Punjabi potboiler film, you know. But Rashid Kidwai, China has a great point about Amrinder Singh. First of all, here's a lifelong congressman, has spent 40 years in the Congress, former army veteran, multiple-term chief minister, treated very badly by the Congress party. Of course, you can also blame Mr. Amrinder Singh for being intransigent and so on and so forth. But ultimately, the manner in which he was thrown out, it was awful. He now comes to Delhi, meets Amit Shah, meets Ajit Doval, and then puts out a statement saying, I'm going to quit the Congress party because of the manner in which I was humiliated, but I will not join the BJP. Now, what does that mean, Rashid? Now, at 79 or 80 that Amrinder Singh is, what are the chances of him floating a regional party and then, voters flocking to that regional party? I mean, can he do it?
Obviously not, Zaka, and this is factually incorrect that he was 40 years he's been in politics. In 1984, he left the Congress over this Operation Blue Star and came to Congress in 1998. Coming to that upshot of today's thing, I've been maintaining, Zaka, that this was actually slightly more than storm in teacup, but nothing more. I can lean on Mirza Ghalib when he had said, "Thi khabar garam ke Ghalib ke udege purze, dekhne hum bhi gaye, lekin tamasha na hua." See, a political party cannot keep pace of a television channel. I'm not talking about you, but I'm just talking about generally media. See, these things, pressure group, interest group, this is all very much part and parcel. If a particular dera had lobbied for a police chief's job, Mr. Channi may have considered this happens in all the states.
No, but Rashid, I mean, if he knew that Mr. Sidhu had such a problem with Mr. Daota, and think about it logically, right? Here is a cop who was heading the SIT, which gave a clean chit to the Badals. I mean, this was one of the singular reasons why everybody was angry against Amrinder Singh. And you bring that gentleman to be the DGP. I mean, that's politically not sensible, right? I mean, it's basic.
Yeah, Zaka, I see your point, but I'm saying if Dera has, influence over, 10 lakh votes or so, maybe some chief minister may, blink. And second point is that, Sidhu has already taken a stand on Kartarpur Sahib corridor. Yes. Now on the BNB issue, you see, it's his stature in Punjab politics is second to none. And that is why you see there is a sense of disappointment across party lines, actually, other than Congress, that why Sidhu has stayed back. They wanted Sidhu to revolt. Behind all these things that, his stand-up, comedian and this, Sidhu is a very, very shrewd, calculating politician.
Look, I don't know who, I don't know who the political benefit of this entire episode will go to. I certainly know who is going to be damaged by it, and that is certainly the Congress party, whichever way you look at it. Hemant Atri, though, what I want to know from you is, who gains from this entire episode? Here you have, finally, Mr. Sidhu, I mean, if they do relent on the DGP point and on the Advocate General point, yes, Mr. Sidhu would have won. But at what cost? He's undermined the Chief Minister. There is now not going to be any degree of trust between the Chief Minister and the PCC Chief. And both these gentlemen now need to lead this party into election and hope to come back with a victory. So what is the cost of what has been achieved?
Zaka, from this whole fiasco that has, happened in last 51 hours and 15 minutes. He resigned at 3 p.m. day before yesterday. That's precisely 51 hours and 15 minutes. What Mr. Navjot Singh Sidhu has done is, or whatever this fiasco was, everybody gains except from Congress. Congress will lose and rest all will, benefit from it. As far as the fiasco is concerned, you tell me one thing. If the DGP was to be replaced or was to be appointed, and he is replaced this way, or Advocate General for that matter, or some minister for that matter, you please tell me who will call the shots. There will be apparently two power centers, parallel power centers, working against each other's interests. Correct. That is point number one. Number two, Jaka, which is very, very serious and very important, which my co-panelists have forgotten. See, you are the chief minister, and you can't appoint your team. And somebody is driving proxy And imagine you, what happened today? He started from Patiala at 2:40 today. And before reaching the meeting venue, he tweets at 3 p.m. sharp about Sahota. You tell me one thing. Once all this theatrics has already been created, where was the need for Navjot Singh Sidhu before this formula was to be enacted or compromised upon, whatever it was? Where was the need of tweeting it?
Yeah.
It's very, very simple. Navjot Singh Sidhu can't get rid of his habits. He is believing into theatrics. You are basically, let me tell you, Congress High Command told him in plain words, boss, enough is enough. Either come on the plank or get out. That was the word. Mr. Harish Chaudhary, who's from Rajasthan, he was there since yesterday in Punjab. He told him in clear terms. And today, before going for that meeting, he again tweets, you tell me one thing. You are the PCC president.
Yeah.
And you are tweeting again at DGP. What's your level and what is his level? Who will accede to the chief minister in future? Suppose chief minister appoints any X or Y person.
Yeah.
And tomorrow Sidhu gets him removed. Where is the authority?
I agree.
So what message you are giving? You are giving that a Dalit chief minister is being proxily driven.
Correct.
Which is suicidal, let me tell you. And Navjot Singh Sidhu can never ever get rid of his habit. What is that? To get into everything, to muddle into everything, to spoil everything just for a few brownie points.
I think Hemant has a great point. Sanjay, I think he has a great point. Not only are you creating two power centers, which is bad enough, if the DGP can be removed because the PCC chief doesn't like him or whatever, for whatever reason, A, you're undermining the authority of the chief minister, and B, like you said, the Congress has been tom-tomming the fact that you've appointed a Dalit chief minister, but the people of Punjab can see that the real power does not lie with Mr. Channi, the real power lies with Mr. Sidhu. Sanjay.
Yeah. Zaka, let me tell you what I think the Congress party or the Congress High Command, as we call it, should have done. Now, obviously, the captain has resigned his disillusion. He is going to shortly leave the Congress. I think he's already publicly stated that. They should have actually taken the call and made Sidhu the chief minister. This is what he wanted to do. And then he could have officially led the campaign. You see, what they have done is they made Mr. Channi the chief minister. But trust me, the Dalit factor is a post-realization that we can spin a positive narrative.
It's a post-factor realization, you're right.
Absolutely. And therefore, they could have avoided all the tamasha and gone ahead with Sidhu. Now, think about it. And I think the gentleman who spoke before me is absolutely right, because the chief minister will also worry about his perception that he's being stymied by Sidhu. Sidhu will paint himself as a super chief minister. So you still have problems, but hopefully the Congress has probably handled his worst, but you never know.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. I'm completely out of time. I want to thank all our guests. We're also expecting a soundbite from Amrinder Singh. He's expected to land at the Chandigarh airport any moment now, and then he's expected to speak to the press. But that's a wrap. I'll tell you what, it's very, very clear. Mr. Sidhu may have won this round, but it's been at the cost of A, the chief minister, because clearly the chief minister's authority has been undermined. This is paving the way for the creation of two power centers in Punjab. And most importantly, it's also undermined the Congress High Command and the Congress leadership's authority to put its house in order in Punjab. That's a wrap. I'll catch you again at 9 o'clock with Brass Tacks.